Entry-level jobs are vanishing at an alarming rate.
To speak frankly about the fact, this will have a big effect on the job market.
So the big thing these days is talking about bubble.
Everyone is selling the end of the world, and this video is the opposite. It's about hope. Meet John Stackhouse, Senior Vice President at RBC, Canada's biggest bank. John and I decided to put together Canada Ahead 2026, a set of predictions for the next year to help you prepare for the future. John, you work for the top bank, you know more than we do.
One of the concerns is that in major cities, Toronto and Vancouver especially, when you can get into the housing market, get into the housing market. I wish every university and every college in every course had AI.
Look up. Money's in the air. I want our viewers to prepare for the world ahead and also get ahead.
Enormous opportunities short term, but those come with enormous risks as well.
John Stackhouse, the Senior Vice President of RBC, welcome.
Hey, it's great to see you, Max.
John, the world is changing. I'm losing sleep. Do you sleep well at night?
I sleep great. Not enough,
great.
but when I sleep well.
What makes you sleep well? Why aren't you anxious like me about what's happening in the world? Trump, tariffs, wars.
So we know with certainty the sun will rise tomorrow. And I don't say that as a joke. Like, the world will go on. Yeah, it's bumpy now. There may be some downturns, there'll be upturns. But if you look through history, especially Canada's history, decade after decade after decade, things get better. Some years are down, some years are up. But long term, we continue to progress.
No matter where you look, everyone says AI will replace us. How much of that is real though?
When the automobile was introduced, everyone was worried that it was going to eliminate lots of horse and buggy driver jobs, which it did, but those transformed into much better, more sophisticated, better paying jobs. In the early 1960s, the US president at the time, John F. Kennedy, said the number one threat to the United States was automation. Automation in the 1960s.
Sounds familiar.
And of course, it was disruptive. I worked for a bank. The automated teller machine, the ATM, was supposed to eliminate all sorts of jobs. We actually employ more people than ever. They're just doing different things. And we've got lots of ATMs. We don't even need ATMs for some people because we've got our phones. AI, of course, is different. It is not just a single technology. It is a systems and a platform and much more. And it is going to cause disruptions. But it is also going to improve the value of the majority of jobs if we develop the skills, if we embrace it, if we figure out how to use AI to make our work and our lives better, which it will.
Give a practical piece of advice for someone about to start school or graduating and they're fearing that AI is going to replace them.
Use AI as much as you can in everything you do. Become the master of it, and you will then take that into your work. You also may create new work opportunities because you will be able to do things, you'll develop things that you may just turn into your own company. That'd be cool. Or you may have organizations say, that's really cool. We need that. We need you. Let's go. Or you're going to walk into a job and suddenly it's like speaking an extra language. People are going to turn to you and say, hey, Max is the guy who speaks AI. Can we get him to do that? And you'll just take off right out of the gate.
Now you may wonder, who will AI never replace?
10 years ago, being with Geoffrey Hinton, the Nobel laureate in AI, and he said, and I think he regrets saying this now, we should stop training radiologists right now, because there will be no demand for radiologists. I think he said in 5 years, but certainly in 10 years and beyond. Here we are 10 years later, huge demand still for radiologists, but it's radiologists who can use AI. So like a nice example of AI not replacing radiologists, but AI transforming what radiologists can do. So the radiologist, the roofer, the carpenter, the architect, coming into the workforce in their 20s today should be awesomely equipped with AI and an understanding and an aptitude to be able to transform what they do, but also what their teams and companies do. AI is not going to replace people in healthcare or construction and a lot of other fields, but it needs to transform those sectors. So people going into healthcare or construction, since you mentioned them, I hope see the opportunity to become the pioneers of that human-machine intelligence hybrid combo in those areas. Construction, least productive sector in the economy. The data is clear on that. Great opportunity for someone going into construction, especially someone who understands AI, who understands robotics, to not worry about losing their own job, but to think about how do I use these tools to transform construction. And it's not just an architect or an engineer, the head of a trades crew, of a roofing crew or a carpentry crew should have those skills coming out of a college or polytechnique to then be able to go in and take over a roofing crew and start to apply these frontier technologies.
Some people worry AI will make learning too easy. Others say it will help students think deeper. So should you go to schools integrating AI in learning?
I wish every university and every college in every course had AI as almost a mandatory component so that you students, but also the profs, learn how to work with AI because it's as applicable in history as it is in finance, as it is in medicine. So it should be essential to the classroom of today and tomorrow. Maybe we'll get there, but we'll get there faster if students demand that. And what I see and hear on a lot of campuses is they're doing it anyway. The profs I talk to say, like, newsflash, everyone's using AI. Okay, so how do you embrace that? How do you turn that into something? How do you get students talking to each other or telling the prof, okay, this is how I did things, this is what I learned differently, rather than ban it? Like, that's kind of not very smart.
It's like banning calculators, right?
Exactly, exactly. And I'm old enough to remember when calculators were banned.
As you can see in our Canada Ahead predictions, the housing market is recovering. Live.Rent's annual report shows all major Canadian cities are experiencing year-over-year declines in rental price. Do you think that housing prices, especially rents dropping, is a good signal or a bad signal?
We've had a lot of imbalances. Too little supply, too much demand, too much supply, too little demand. And those are going to start to balance out over the next few years. One of the concerns is that in major cities, Toronto and Vancouver especially, there could be a decline in supply quite significantly because nothing new is being built. And so you could get to 2027, 2028, there's no new supply. And that's actually when population growth, including through immigration, may be accelerating again. So we'll have to think ahead to some adjustments that may be needed in the near future. We have a lot of people already in the country still looking for housing, both immigrants and established Canadians. So that will help level out. We still have a significant amount of immigration, especially permanent residents, which is where most of the demand for housing comes from. The cutbacks in immigration are largely on the temporary side. Also students, which is a particular issue, especially around rentals, since you mentioned that. Yeah. And in half a dozen cities, particularly across the country. So we can talk about the challenges there. But in the main, at the macro level, we'll probably see a stabilization, a balancing.
I always recommend people look at real data, not headlines. Live.Rent gives exactly that. They track average rents across Canada, and their annual report is a solid way to follow every sign of recovery. Click on the link in the description to get access first to the full report and make informed decisions. When it comes to someone looking at buying today or 2026, I mean, you're kind of biased because you work for RBC, but would you recommend they invest in buying a property this year, or should they wait?
If you can, and I've seen housing cycles up and down through the decades, And the best advice I was ever given is when you have savings, personal capital, to invest in your house, which is going to be the most important asset in most people's lives, do it. Don't wait, or don't try to time the market. Yes, it may come down and then it'll go up. When you can get into the housing market, get into the housing market. And the beauty of home ownership is you are building wealth over your lifetime, over decades. And that's going to grow no matter what point you bought into, or what price you bought into the market. But you're also investing, unlike any other financial asset, in your own livelihood. Like, that's your home. Yeah. So once you're into a home and you own it, you don't think about, we kind of paid like maybe $10,000 too much for this place. I feel a little ripped off. I don't hear anyone say, like, it's your home. You almost stop thinking about what you paid for it because of the inherent value of it, and you'll hold on to that and then be able to sell it, hopefully decades down the road, although you might have moves in the through those decades that will fulfill kind of your lifetime savings.
A lot of Canadians are actually giving up their citizenship, moving abroad, new immigrants. There's been a report that suggests that a lot of highly skilled, educated immigrants, PRs and citizens are leaving the country. Part of it is because of many gaps, like healthcare. So how do you see the next, let's say, 5 years panning out when it comes to labor skill gaps, when it comes to healthcare gaps, when it comes to construction gaps? How do you predict that will impact everyday Canadians?
We have to come to grips in the country with a number of things. One is, you've mentioned healthcare. I would also add to that our tax system. So if you are a thriving professional at any age, but a young professional, our tax rate, personal tax rate, is not competitive with the places where people are moving. Even a high tax jurisdiction like California is 10 or 20 points cheaper for professionals. Plus you're getting paid in US dollars, plus you may have better health benefits, plus. Canada and Canadians need to understand, yes, this is a wonderful place to live, but it's not the only wonderful place to live in the world. It's not the only wonderful place to work in the world. I worry a bit as we kind of see what's going on in the US that we may get a little smug with our own state and think, well, of course the world wants to move here. Well, yes, that's true to a degree, but it's still pretty great to live and work in a place like California, or you mentioned many other parts of the US, or East Asia, or Western Europe, or the Persian Gulf is attracting a lot of professionals now.
Power, hydro, gas, oil. It's how you're able to watch this video. And you may see Canada rise very soon because of it. I recently sat down with Ontario's Minister of Energy, Stephen Lecce, who's so bullish on nuclear power, on building reactors in Canada and Ontario, the biggest, in fact. What do you predict for the energy markets going forward into the next year and beyond that?
Big opportunity for Canada. We have nuclear, especially small modular, coming on stream over the next few years in Ontario. Ontario can and should be the global leader in small transportable nuclear facilities, which is what data centers would benefit from. So game on for Ontario. Not just in Ontario, they can export that to the world. Other places like Alberta, but not restricted to Alberta, have an abundance of natural gas that can be abated, so fewer
LNG
emissions going into the atmosphere. You can use the gas to power a data center right next door, and then put the emissions back into the earth, sequestration as it's known. We also have hydro, especially at a local level. You don't need massive hydro dams. You can have smaller hydro facilities. BC and Quebec should be leaders in this. Look at Atlantic Canada and the Atlantic Loop. We're here in Halifax, ton of wind power. Same in Newfoundland. You can harness that wind power for data centers here in Halifax, and then use that for the eastern seaboard for the United States.
I want our viewers to prepare for the world ahead and also get ahead. So with this energy transformation, what do you think is the right thing for small businesses, medium-sized businesses, individuals to be doing today to get ahead tomorrow?
Well, always think about energy efficiency. It's one of the hidden costs in any organization because we don't see the bill running up when the lights are on or when we're working away, and then you get your bill or you see the debit in your account, and it can be a bit of a shock. So always be thinking about efficiency, but thinking also about solving some of these challenges. So the exponential demand growth for data centers. What a great problem for someone to solve.
John, look up. Money's in the air. It's literally orbiting around us. So your very own RBC and RBC Higher Orbit predicts that the space economy will grow to $1.8 trillion by 2035. That's comparable to the GDP of Canada. How can Canada capture its share?
You use a satellite 40 times a day. That's where your data is going, whether you know it or not. It's going up there and then coming down here 40 times a day. It's really important that those satellites be Canadian, just like we want sovereignty over our technology here on ground. We need the same sort of sovereignty up there. Great example is water bombers. We all think of the big planes, actually may become or at least be augmented by fleets of water-bearing drones. So we can fill a drone with water, and it's like a big drone, 1,000 of them, send them out over a forest fire, and they can do all the deluging of the fires. That's going to be run out of space.
So satellites is like having a fire alarm, fire sprinklers, Wi-Fi.
I love it.
Touches everybody.
Exactly. All in a box.
We just need to install it.
Yes.
There.
Most Canadians don't appreciate we were the third country to space. It was the Soviet Union, now Russia, the United States, then Canada. Like, we were up there early, and we've got this great history from the Canadarm to Chris Hadfield. Today, Canada is not even able to launch into space. Everything that Canada puts in space, we put on a SpaceX rocket, or maybe a European rocket, or maybe in other countries. Fortunately, in the new or the recent federal budget, there's a commitment of $180 million or so to build launch capability. I suspect that will be here in Nova Scotia.
You hear so much about the conflict between the US and China, and it creates fear about Canada's place in the world. But when you zoom out, are there positive signs?
We need to restore a relationship with China that recognizes the enormous differences between the countries, that isn't naive to some of the challenges that China is presenting to the world, isn't naive to China's ambitions in the world, but also in its own backyard, and some of its ambitions, as evidence is shown here in Canada. That doesn't mean we need to be hostile with China. We need to work together because we have things they need, food as an example, energy as an example. We have things, or they have things that we need, or they make things that we clearly need and buy, and that's fine. You can have a very productive and constructive relationship. I realize the Saudis are going through similar calculations. They don't want to be dependent on the United States. They don't want to be dependent on China. They want to be dependent on Saudi Arabia, and developing all sorts of different relationships, including with Canada, that will be to their advantage. So it's kind of appropriate that we've got a chessboard here, because the whole world is playing this three-dimensional chess right now. Amazing to watch, but that's how Canadians need to think, that it's not like the old checkers board. It's a new chessboard for the world, and we have some good moves to make.
John, you work for the top bank, you know more than we do. Give us some recommendations. How should we prepare for the world ahead in 2026?
More disruption, more bumpiness, long-term growth and opportunity. So it requires all of us to think more long-term, Enormous opportunities short term, but those come with enormous risks as well. So be very careful with that. Probably more volatility. We'll have more geopolitical disruptions more because it's a fragmented world, and less institutional fabric in the world to kind of moderate those disruptions. We'll have more economic disruptions because of what's going on in trade. It's an amazing time to be alive, with far more positives than negatives in my mind to all of this, but there will be negatives. So brace yourself for that. Make sure you have a cushion of savings to fall back on, a cushion in your life so that when you have these shocks, you're not too knocked off kilter for them. And always think long term. The world will get better. It always has, even though it seems maybe not like that in the moment. The economy will get stronger long term. Technology will add to human prosperity because humans will figure that out.
The world is not ending, it's just changing. Both John and I appreciate you watching, and we would love to hear back from you in the comments below. Also, sign up for Live.Rent's newsletter to be the first to receive their upcoming annual report in early 2026 and stay ahead.